Okay, I was just making sure you're good.
I talked to Tommy on the way in.
Okay, all right, good.
We can just do this at our office. Well, we'll let the others know.
We said we're gonna do it. I said I thought by week 3 everybody's already bored of it, so we'll see.
No, we're not. You got to do 4. If you don't do 4, you're tied. You got to do 1 more to break the record, hold the record for mayor's press conferences.
We'll do one on Christmas Eve.
That's
See how many people show up.
Well, I'll definitely be the only one here. Oh, yeah, okay. We wanted to start, Andrew. We made him stop.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You just know me.
Yeah, man, this 9:30 is like right on the edge of impossible for me.
River. I don't want to do what happened last week.
No, that's all right. I am me. I'll just let you.
Well, good morning. It's week 3 is finishing here, so we're about to start another week, and I will say I am somewhat cautious about the next 2 Mondays. We will be Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Certainly, probably New Year's Eve will be here, but not sure we will be here for Christmas Eve. Rick told me he'd be the only one here, so maybe I'll just go over to his office. I'll see you at your office, Rick, at 9:30 next Monday.
I'll be here. We work.
So
New Year's.
We'll be here for New Year's, and we'll be here for Christmas Eve. But we may be over at Rick's office then next Monday. But in all seriousness, it is the holiday season. A lot of great things going around. I really want to start off by saying thank you to both Walker Wilson and Alex Andrade and Jessica Andrade and all those associated with On Bikes. I had the opportunity to do the slow ride this weekend that they sponsored, and it was a great event. I also want to thank everyone over at the Veterans Park. Paul Einhardt, they put together a great presentation. Unfortunately, their Memorial Day service got rained out. Their Veterans Day service got rained out. And so they ended up with me for Christmas. But it was a very nice event. I told them that I was sorry about the speaker, but at least I brought sunshine. It was a beautiful day. I really appreciate our fire crew being out there. They did a great job. They had the crane up with the American flag. It was really a nice ceremony. I just wish it had happened either on Veterans Day or Memorial Day. But certainly the weather didn't work out for us this year, but appreciated being a part of that. And lastly, really enjoyed having the opportunity to flip a coin for the Subway All-Star game on Friday night, and really appreciate PSA, and I thought that was a great event on Friday night as well. So a lot of things going on. It's the holidays, and we are moving forward. We want you to have a safe holiday season. But we will begin on some tragic news, unfortunately. I don't know how many of you heard yesterday, a 63-year-old man was on a scooter traveling south on 14th Avenue. He ran the stop sign there, Gregory, and was struck by a car. He was not wearing a helmet. He was killed. Those are the details I have. I don't have the gentleman's name at this particular time. I believe Mr. Leiter does have that information. And at this point, I'm told, we are certainly working for better. This was the focus of the On Bikes, is we have better bike and pedestrian safety. We want to continue that. However, when you run a stop sign and you're not wearing a helmet, these are challenges that happen, and it's a very unfortunate thing. I know the police department and all of us here at City of Pensacola hate what had happened. But unfortunately, the gentleman was struck by a car, and he wasn't wearing a helmet, so he was killed. So we did have that sad news to start out the week on, but we are continuing to work, and I really appreciate the Pensacola Police Department being on there and taking care of those the scenes there. I know they went and talked to the family, and I'm just sorry about the incident here at the Christmas time. But we are moving forward on several things this week. We do have tonight is the delegation meeting. Last week we had our first council meeting. We were able to approve a list of agenda that we will be going forward to the legislature. Priority number 1 is the ST Aerospace and doing that. But there are other things that are there. There's some pedestrian safety that we would like to do further on Main Street. See some things on Main Street continue to improve. There's a project there. There are a couple other road projects and some stormwater projects that we're looking at, and we'll continue to put those forward. We also have several priorities, including making sure that housing money with the legislature stays in affordable housing as we continue to work forward on that. I know that was very instrumental in the conversation I had with Commissioner May last week when the county and the city met, and we discussed what we're going to be doing looking at homeless. We certainly believe there are sort of three priorities into that homeless situation. One, we need to be doing a better job with infill housing, and we want to do that and finding opportunities to find more housing. We want to be finding better ways to find services that are working with individuals to make sure that they are getting the service they need. And then two, we'd like to address panhandling in a way that we think it makes sense. We certainly want to see this community as giving, and we want to see them continue to be giving, but we want them to be giving in a way that actually helps the individuals either get the shelter they need or the services they need. So again, we had some good conversations. We also talked about the clinic that the county runs. We talked about that some last week. We're still evaluating whether it is going to make sense for us financially to be a part of it, but we certainly think it's an opportunity for us to improve services and benefits for our city employees, while at the same time curtailing costs associated with healthcare. The county certainly had done that with their program, and we appreciate their invitation to participate. There were a few other things that we worked on, but it was very good. Also, last week I met with the port, and I tell you, there are some amazing things that are going on out there. It is kind of interesting because they don't let you know as much, because that's why they like being on the other side of that, where not many people can get out there on it. But certainly the things that are happening with Blue Origin are exciting in offshore inland with the ship that's out there. There's also some exciting things happening with the America's Cup team that is here, the American Magic. We were able to visit with them, and then also, I think what's really interesting, I don't think many people know about it, the Pensacola Oysters, Pensacola Bay Oysters, they're sort of going to be the seeding. What's going on out there on the port right now is really seeding spat for oysters for not just Pensacola and Northwest Florida, but really all of the state of Florida. So it really is amazing to see some of the things going on out there, and I was able to take a tour out there on Friday and see what Amy's doing, and there's a lot of exciting things happening at the port. These are some of the things we wanted to talk about. I'm going to turn it over to you guys, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. It's a little bit slower week with the holidays coming up, so we don't have as much to tell you that we're doing, but we're certainly here to answer any questions.
Well, offshore inland, that relationship has been up and down with the city over the last couple of years. Of course, they were going to part of Deep Flex, and that project didn't work out. At one time, they were all talking about pulling out of the area. Where are we with offshore inland as a city?
My understanding is we are fairly good with offshore inland. Obviously, the things didn't work out with Deep Flex, but that was more a result of Deep Flex than it was offshore inland. They are the ones that brought Blue Origin and the ship that's out there, the Jeff Bezos ship out there that's being retrofitted there.
So that's a client of theirs?
Yes.
Okay, so they're...
Yes.
All right.
They're doing the work on that. Talking with Amy and talking with, talking with them this past week, there seems to be a lot that Pensacola can do in that operation. We think we're certainly becoming an MRO possibility at the airport, and we believe we'll do the same at the port. Everybody continues to tell us we want to see these type of jobs where people have skills that they can go and they can be a part of having a job that are above average paying jobs. They're more industrial. These are those opportunities. We have a chance for our citizens to get some of those skills in the technical areas of dealing with machinery and repair and welding and a variety of other things. And apparently the client seems happy, the customer seems happy with the Port of Pensacola, and Amy believes we can continue to be a better player in this industry. So I do know they showed me some $1 million bollards they got out there to moor that ship, and they said they can withstand a Category 5. So she said if Michael hit Pensacola, that basically the ship and those bollards would have still been here. But we spent some money to do that. but it's exciting work that's happening out there. And I will say, I think we can be an MRO. I think there are things that we absolutely can work in that repair, maintenance, and overhaul. We can be competitive in that, and that's a niche we can play in, and it can provide good paying jobs to citizens here in the marine industry. And I think we can be a player. There are certain things that we can do, and there are certain things we can, and that's what I talked to Amy about. I said, Amy, I don't want you to focus on anything we can't be. If we're not competitive with Mobile, if we're not competitive with Panama City, let's go find something else. Let's go find a niche that we're successful at. And right now, MRO services seems to be that. We have we saw some other containers out there that's in some container services that we are competitive to Mexico. So these areas, we had a ship coming in hopefully every week. So these things are things that we can be competitive in. If we can be competitive, then we should be following them. And I think that's what we're trying to do. But we're not going to try to be all to everybody. I mean, right. There are some things, perhaps the oh golly, what was the Incoa project? That's not going to be what we're necessarily a fit for. So we just need to go find other things that we are a fit for and keep pursuing forward.
Is that now done, dead, or because
my understanding is they're going to come back to us. And again, I'm not sure. Again, I'm learning what happens with the council and where they are. It is not my feeling that they are consistent with what we can do out there as a board. I know that in talking with the IHMC, I continue to believe research is a place where we can make headway. I think the Pensacola Bay oysters simply shows what we can do there. I would love to be back discussing with FWC. I know they're a little bit upset with us in the hatchery, but I always believe the hatchery would be great on the port. I think we should be in marine research on the port. Am I saying all of the port should be marine research? No, but I'm saying there should be a portion of that port that is dedicated to marine research, and we should continue to keep doing that. I don't think it's consistent, and COA is consistent with that operation. I know that people at IHMC have made it clear that they don't believe that they're compatible with INCOA. So, we feel like at this particular time we have a brighter future ahead of us with the MRO and the research opportunities. So we want to pursue that rather than the INCOA.
Where do you see on the port space the fish hatchery going? Are you talking about over on the asphalt old field, or that's a pretty large footprint?
There are plenty of places that we could put it over on the east side that I drove around with the other day with Clark Merritt and Amy Miller, and there are places where they could participate. They could also participate right there with where Pensacola Bay oysters are on the west side, the very northwest side, where IHMC is looking at. I mean, these are things that could be going together. Any opportunity to bring research together and synergize and find ways to work together, we'd be very excited to do that.
Because that has to be behind the line, right?
It would be.
Okay.
It would be, and we would see what would happen. So again, these are things that we're looking going forward. I think we're just looking for what the port can do. I still think the port can both generate money for the city of Pensacola and generate jobs, but do it in a way that it tracks in those niches. So we're trying to find those niches that we are competitive.
Are those things compatible, the research element and the more industrial aspect of port?
I don't think the research and the INCOA are necessarily compatible. I don't think the research has any problem with the MRO or vice versa, or the container shipping routes. These things all seem to be compatible and working well together. We would look to continue that and figure out how we could do that. That's what we'll be. I mean, that's our challenge, is to figure out which niches we are compatible in and how we can expand those. And I do have confidence in Amy, and I have confidence in the team out there, just when you see about the things they've been doing. And it's very exciting. I mean, this is one we certainly appreciate our friends over there at the Yacht Club finding the opportunity for us to have the America's Magic here for 5 months doing things here. And I think their experience and the conversations I had with them on Friday, that I believe USA Sailing will be doing more sailing in Pensacola Bay as we move forward. I mean, I don't know that it's going to be America's Cup sailing, but I do believe they are very excited about what our bay has to offer, and I think they will be a bigger player in our community as we move forward.
big topic that came up on Thursday at the county was the CSX crossings, which is sort of a perennial problem. With the change of ownership for some of the tracks for CSX, do we know which tracks are going over to the new company, and what, if any, effort to try to make some of those problems easier have you guys looked into?
I don't know. I'm talking to Secretary Gaynor right now on some things that we have going on with Florida Department of Transportation, and we will also ask them to sit down with us and talk to us about where we are with the new train crossings. The one thing I do know, my experience, what I have learned about trains is if you got to Congress in the 1800s, you got better deals, and they got a lot better deal than we got. We'll have to work with them, with whoever it is, whether it's CSX or whether it's some other company. I know that unfortunately most of the rules are they swing in favor of the individual who has the railroad. So we hope we just hope we will have somebody that's more conducive to work with us, and we will make every effort to work with them on whatever interchanges we have. I certainly think that the bigger challenge is where the freight yard is. The county has more significant problems with airport and a variety of other roads that get blocked. Also, some of the ones out there on 29 out in the Muskogee area. Those are the problems that are bigger, and so we have not had the same problems, but I'm sure there are problems. And as we see what's happening with Garden Street, what happens with Main Street, is those become the two primary east-west arteries with everything that's happening in downtown. Those crossings will be critical. Tarragona will be critical for us to talk to. So, we will be interested to see who's going to be ultimately the individual who will have those, and how willing they will be to work with us.
Last week at the city council meeting, you mentioned that there have been a lot of time constraints over the first couple weeks. What are the biggest issues taking up the majority of your time right now?
Well, it wasn't time constraints so much with my time. It was time constraints that we didn't have much time before session. I mean, we only came in office on November 27th, and tonight is the night of the delegation, and we are shortly going to be slipping into session here very quickly after we get past the new year. So, there are some things that we are just playing catch up on. And I really want to say a huge thank you to Chris. I think Chris Holly, our city administrator, his relationship and being in Tallahassee and working some of those things, he's been on top of that and helping kind of reorganize our efforts to get ourselves together. Chris put together a good list of projects with staff that we took to the city. I think next year we would hope to do that process probably September, October, so there's much more time for us to have discussion. I think you heard several council members that were upset that they didn't really see this until a week before they had to make a decision. I would have loved to give them more time, but I had about a week before I had to get it to them before they had to make a decision. So that was the time constraint more than anything else. This year's, this is like one of those coaches that comes in for recruiting right before National Signing Day. You try to make the most of that first year, and you really focus on what's going to happen the second year. I think that's kind of where we are right now. We want to have a good year, but probably with better preparation, we can have a great year the following year. But we still believe we can have a good year this year. Obviously, the biggest project we know is that ST Aerospace, and if we get that, that's like landing a 5-star recruit. So that'll be a major catch for us, and so we're going to stay focused on that major effort.
Have you hired a lobby firm yet?
We have the Ballard firm who does who is doing our federal lobbying. I know that Mr. Holly worked with the group we were currently having. We asked them to come over and brief us. They were not real receptive to coming over here, and so we said we got to find a different firm, and he went to work trying to piece together what relationships we currently had. We put together a 6-month contract that would get us through session, and we expect to go back out for bid, but we did talk to them and said, hey, if you're successful helping us, that sure would mean a lot for when we go back to bid, and we'll give you 6 months to see what you can do for us. So we would like to put those contracts back out to bid after we get past the session. But for right now, we're going to move forward with the group that we had on sort of retainer for our federal, and they're going to be our state lobbyists for this year. And we're going to give them 6 months to see what they can do. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, as the new mayor now for the city of Pensacola, can you speak to me a little bit about what you know about Bruce Beach and what the plans are for Bruce Beach? As you may well know, that was historically where we as blacks went. We had a swimming pool down there. Many of us as young teenagers, we sneaked and swam into the beach where we wasn't supposed to, but we did, and as teenagers. And so I read some accounts of it during the previous administration, but it's kind of dear to many of us in the African American community as to what is going to happen to Bruce Beach, and if there will be something that will indicate that that's where we were historically and not get lost in the shuffle in terms of the new development. And I wanted to ask, was the master plan that Quentin Stewart is working on, is Bruce Beach a part of that? Would it be a part of that?
I don't believe Bruce Beach is the immediate part of the 18 acres, the Community Maritime Park. However, I know that Mr. Studer is working with a group, Scape, to really look at the entire waterfront. And in that case, Bruce Beach is a part of that. And I know in looking at it, there are several things that we want to move forward. At a bare minimum this year, my understanding, Keith, and we've talked about this, there are planned markers that are going through the University of West Florida to try to get a historic marker up that says that. But it has been my, talking with several people, I know Dr. Williams and some other people, that there's a desire to have more of a museum. I don't know if it's more of an outdoor museum that has some selections. I've seen some that have been very successful, and I think at that location, there's something we could do that would, rather than be an inside bricks and mortar, if we get the opportunity, that may be something long term. But one way or the other, we should do something to recognize the property that it was and the institution of what it meant to the black community, the African American community. I think it really offers us an opportunity not only to tell this Bruce Beach story, but it allows us to tell other African American stories within that context. Yeah. And that's what I would like to see it happen. I told several of those individuals, I saw a place in Falmouth, Jamaica, that there was an outdoor exhibit that told a significant history of what happened in that part of Jamaica. And when I saw that, I was like, that could be something we could do at Bruce Beach. I think not just Bruce Beach, but several other things that we've had in that context of being there in sort of a celebration of the history that African Americans have played in the history of Pensacola in this area. We should make a more concerted effort to show that history and display that history, and that's what we would like to do. Bruce Beach, I think we're still trying to figure out where we go on the ultimate where it ends up. I think it's in a good position now to at least open it to the public, but we would certainly like to see more happen out of that, and I think we would certainly like to see more recognition. There are two things as we go to Tallahassee this year that I promised that we will do. One is that we would take, and I'd be, my invitation will go out to you, Mr. Leroy, if you want to participate with us. I'd love to go see the Secretary of State in Tallahassee. They're the ones that have all the history for the state of Florida, and I would like to talk to them about the opportunity to do something, because I don't know, there are many places in the state of Florida where the state of Florida has put forward funding for an African American historical context of some kind of display or something. So I'd love to do that. The other thing that I promised is I told David Mayo that we were going to go over and with Rand Hicks and some other people with Bike Ped, we're going to go over to Tallahassee and we're going to talk to them about trying to find the legislature to appropriate more money into their TPOs for bike and pedestrian safety. So very much one of the priorities that I'd like to come over to this session this year. I'm not saying we're going to be successful in the first year, but I think it's one of those things, if you're there over time and you're consistent, you will be successful at the legislature, and we just need to go over this year and start talking about that. But I think having some kind of display for our African American history at Bruce Beach that's a goal I would like to see us at some point come to fruition.
Well, whatever our publication can do, and certainly on a personal note, I also before I went off to college as a basketball player, there were basketball goals. Of course, I see that on the park on the other side of Bruce Beach. But I used to run up and down that area to condition myself. I was so afraid I wasn't going to be in shape to make the team to hold my scholarship at the college that I went to, that I did a lot of conditioning, running up and down here, swimming in the swimming pool. And so anytime Bruce Beach name comes up, you know, as a kid, I mean, I'm going back to the probably late 50s and very early 60s, so I know a lot of you all probably wasn't around at that time, but Bruce Beach is just a very important part of the city of Pensacola, and I was just concerned that that not so much representing the black community, but that something would be there that would let us old geezers still realize that, you know, there's something
Well,
there.
I think it's not only talking about the opportunity to do something at Bruce Beach is not just Bruce Beach. I think we can do other things. I think we could recognize the 55 JCs team in the display there. I think there are other things that are part of our fabric of our African American heritage that have happened near and close to that proximity. That would be a good place to display it so that when people come there, they can see the importance of the African American history and the influence on Pensacola. So I think there are a number of things we could have displays there, and we will be looking to do that. That I know how important that is. Many individuals in the African American community have told me that, so we definitely want to see the end product look like that. But at a minimum, at this point, while we're still in our development stage, we are going to have a historic marker there. And my understanding, money's been appropriated. We're simply waiting for the text and to be put in and everything else to happen for the marker at least to be put up.
Thank you.
Jim.
Are there plans for a more in-depth city employee survey than the one that came out a couple weeks ago?
I believe we will be surveying some things going forward when we come into the new year. We'll be looking to do that. I don't have the details on that yet, but we'll be looking to survey where we are, just trying to understand, what we need to be doing, sort of helping us align where we go with training and a variety of other things as we work forward. So I do believe you will see something at the first of the year come forward with an additional survey.
And then under the old administration, the human resources manual was suspended. Has that been reinstituted?
My understanding, we have something, but we will be looking to sort of rewrite that as we come forward. I mean, it's one of the things I think that we will be looking to put forward something new. I think I was told that, that first press conference that yes, we have something. So I think we technically have something, but there's no doubt we would like to rewrite that.
Talk about the balance between you're taking over the city, you've got Chris in place, and we've got a transition team. How do you balance getting stuff done and waiting for the transition team to give you their report?
It has been a delicate situation. It has been. We've had to move on some things. We've moved forward. I mean, Ms. Madison's in the audience dealing with our transparency. One of those things probably was talking about press conference. We didn't have time to wait for the report to come out. We started doing press conferences right away. We probably could have done them better if she told me how to do them, but we just started them. So there's some of that going on, and that's certainly the expectation. Mr. Holly was brought here to deal with a lot of internal. That was that's the reason I wanted him here, to help me internal. I promised him that he would focus on internal, I would focus on external, and if he could build me a team and put that together and go forward, we'd be in good shape. He has been working on some of those things, but there's no doubt in that there's been an evaluation. I'm sure there'll be a restructuring. He's already seen some things here that he believes we need to be doing restructuring. So, it was my goal to kind of, before we do any massive kind of structuring, to see what happens with what we get back from the transition team, which would be in February. But I think there will be some things as we move forward, and we will adjust how we're doing things. We don't really have a neighborhood department. Clearly, a lot of things we want to be doing is engaging neighborhoods and going out. We talked about it on the campaign. It's one of the things I would, as we move forward, I expect to probably see. There was a lot of discussion about that with Pastor Williams the other day at the transition team. So, there are things that I think will be coming out of that transition report that will lead us in a way to change, make some changes in our overall structure. But what those are without the report, I can't say at this particular time, but I do believe those things will be happening. The other thing that I think is happening is we're clearly having to make some decisions and choices right now on things that we're doing, and Chris has been doing that, and I very much trust him to make a good team.
Could you be more specific? We appreciate the press conferences. You've already tied the mayor's record. Next week you'll break it. But in neighborhoods, can just, what are y'all working on? We still don't know.
We don't. We're waiting for the transition team. I've said that we're going to wait till January to go out. I've already started saying I would like to go out to the Woodland Heights in January. We'd like to schedule a town hall meeting there in January. Start with District 5, then move from there and go to some of the other districts as we move forward. My goal is by the end of June, that we'll have done at least one town hall meeting in all 7 districts. Then the second half of the year, we'll do it again in all 7 districts, so that at least 2 of those times we will have gotten to meet. But at this time, we are chasing down things that are told to us that are problems in those neighborhoods, but we are not specifically or more proactively engaging until we get there. And this has been a lot of internal. We have a structure that was in place from the last administration. It was one of the things why Keith is an assistant administrator. Chris has said that when you have 20 reports to one individual, you don't do a real good job managing. So we need to change some of that out. So he is working to put that together, and I think you'll see some different structural management. So we're going to. I'm confident we'll come forward, but these are things we're also trying not to rush the team. We've got 12 individuals, private sector individuals, who have volunteered their time. I don't want to say their time is worthless, but I do want to say that we're working on their time.
Hello, how you doing?
How are you doing?
Hey, how you doing, bro?
Good.
How you doing, man?
Good. So I don't want to say their time is worthless. So I want to see what they come forward before we really institute any of those changes on structure. I want to see what they say. So it is a little bit of both, Rick, right now. But that's kind of the plan.
I hear you saying that departments and department heads, you're waiting, everything about that might change, you're waiting until after the transition team.
Well, I'm waiting to see if we have any new departments we want to do. I got a feeling probably I'd like to do something more that focuses on neighborhoods, but I'd like to see what comes back from the transition team.
Last week, the county commission said they wanted to restructure the board of directors of the Pensacola-Escambia Human Relations Commission. Since it is a joint agency between the city and county, what are your thoughts on that?
We did have some discussion about that at the meeting we had between the city and the county. We did discuss the HRC. The city believed the HRC is an important organization, and it needs to stay independent. With that said, we clearly understand maybe the guide rules or how the overall board is chosen in selection of the management of it might use some changing, and we certainly understand there were some things that probably could have been done better that would have not led to the problems that were placed in the audit and that we will continue to deal with. But that at no point believes that the mission of what they are doing is essential, and we support that going forward. And that was what was conveyed to Commissioner May, is that we would absolutely support the HRC. But it's my understanding, he was working internally to maybe change some of the direction. Even if there may be, it's my understanding that there's been a question of could elected officials serve on that board. I know he had expressed some interest. I know Ms. Canada Wynn has expressed some interest, And, you know, if the answer comes back yes, we would love to see her participate on that board. I know she has a significant interest in that board, and we will continue to pursue, you know, whatever we need to do. One way or the other, I think the board needed to be restructured and just some better checks and balances placed in that organization so it could run smoother within the way it was intended to run. And I think if we did that, so I think the mission of what it does is vitally critical, and we need it to stay going forward. Yes.
The skate park.
Okay. Yes.
You haven't put the project out to bid again, or for the first time?
Yes, it's going to be a city project, so that will be happening forward. We clearly, our expectation, we did discuss this also with Commissioner May, because that is one of his projects, is the Hollis T. Williams Park. The skate park has always been envisioned as a part of the park. The park itself will be a city project within the overall park project, but as you know, there are things, parking, bathroom, restrooms, other amenities that are not part of the skate park itself, but clearly are intended to be a part of it as the overall park. So the expectation would be, at this point, we try to begin doing the planning. We also approve the planning money, at least moving forward with the planning and development of the whole Hollis T. Williams Park. So we believe if those two are going in tandem in planning, when we get to construction, hopefully we'll be able to move forward, and we can move forward with the implementation on the south end of the Hollis T. Williams Park, so that the skate park can keep moving forward, and the improvements for the overall Hollis T. Williams for the south end will also move forward at the same time.
Yep. Is there any potential of using the existing plans that they have?
I think a lot of it will be the existing plans. I mean, they know better what they're looking for from that standpoint. I think it has to, you know, it's a city project, so it has to go within procurement of what we have, and so it will have to go that way. But you know, as far as what ramp happens or what thing, I mean, I'm very much dependent upon the experts, I think, that are brought to the table from the skateboarding community. You know, that's not going to be the position of where we have the expertise, but whoever designs it for us will be working with those individuals. So, I mean, I mean, it will be somewhat different. I don't expect it to be radically different, because I think they'll also be engaging the skateboarding community for that design.
You mentioned talking about affordable housing with Commissioner May. Is there, pardon me not knowing, is there any kind of a comprehensive survey of the city in terms of what housing options are available from middle to low housing and cost? Because I hear it said a lot, but in just anecdotally going around town a lot, I see a lot of affordable housing at the same time. Do we actually know what's out there by price?
And again, I mean, I think we could probably go to the realtors. I could go to Chuck Michaels and get some of that research. I do believe the challenge is, what are the housing opportunities that are for certain rent levels? I continue to hear that rents everywhere have been going up, and it's become a little bit more challenging. So I'm not just talking about on the for sale side, I'm talking about what's on the rent side. So we will continue to look and see what can be done. I know there are a couple of things that have happened. We have several apartment complexes. I think some of the newer ones are done better. Some of the older housing units are, I think, where we sometimes have concentrated low or high concentrations of poverty. And I don't know that those are really, that's one thing I know, serving with Commissioner May, that he wants to do is find a way to disperse that a little bit better, so that it makes it more mixed income. Everything we say says if you get housing that's more mixed income, it will be more successful for really all levels. I know that's one of the things he wants to do with several of the properties, even within the city that is cheap to the county. Is there a way to find a way to disperse and move in lower concentrations affordable housing across infill? And I'm very receptive to working with him on that. I think that's one hope that we come out of this, if we decide to take on and really evaluate some issues with homelessness and poverty, that we will look at. Now again, we're not going to solve everything on that end, but I think if we could make ourselves more receptive, if we could create more housing for low income, I think, and we could create more diversity and mixed income experience, we will be more successful as a community. I think we're going to solve everything. I think that's. I think our goal is to make things better. I think that's what we can do. I think we can be better. But I'm not going to sit here and say I think we're going to cure homelessness in 2 years. I mean, I think that's entirely probably. I think the Bible says those challenges of poverty will be with us always. So I don't know that we're going to solve everything, but I think we can make things better, and if we can be moving in the right direction for the community, I think we'll continue to make it look better.
How do you create that? I mean, mixed income is sort of unnatural. People
Well, I think
together by a level of income. How do you create that when it's not a natural state?
I think the idea is you don't concentrate poverty. I mean, you're right, on private property, we don't control what is the level of income. But I think the idea is, what I think Commissioner May wants to do is make so that you're not taking all your poverty and putting it into one apartment complex or something like that. That you're finding opportunities for houses here or there, or duplexes here or there that end up on properties that the county may own within the city or within the county, and then you end up having opportunities where you have less concentration of poverty in certain areas. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Congratulations, man. Curtis Antonio Spears, and the reason why I'm asking, Mr. Mayor, is that now I had a situation that happened to me that I was pulled over by an officer for not coming to a total complete stop of a stop sign, which I got the video surveillance and all of that, and it was interesting to me because I got the receipt right here, and I got the complaint in my form, and I paid $166 for the ticket. Now the officer, when as she stopped me, she got kind of like, it was like a personal thing. But at the same time, when I looked at the video, the same officer who gave me a ticket for not coming to a complete stop at the stop sign, she's running through stop signs like a drunk on Saturday night red lights. So my point is, shouldn't our officers be held to at least follow the same laws they are supposed to uphold?
Well, clearly we expect that, and if that's not happening, then we need to address that with Tommy Leiter, Chief Leiter, and we'll be happy to do that. I'll be more than happy to talk with you afterwards on your specifics. This is more of an issue for things that are happening related to press, but I'll be more than happy to talk with you on your specific instance after this, and we can get with the police department. I'll be more than happy to work with you on your specific issue.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, I have one last statement, comment I want to make it. This may be something I probably need to take up with your new city manager. But over the years, and it's been a little bit more than the 8 years of the strong mayor situation, our publication, which primarily is targeted to the African American community, and out of the 27 years that we've been in existence now, our publication over the years has become very, very, very diverse. We don't just have information relating just to the African American community, it's the overall community at large. And each time I have tried to find out what has been the amount of print advertising dollars that the City of Pensacola has spent, I always ran into a brick wall, so to speak. And I took it up with one of the department heads, which is going to remain nameless because I'm not here to disparage anyone. But he actually told me that he would never advertise in our front magazine because of an editorial that I wrote that wasn't favorable to the city nor to the previous mayor. And I thought that that was kind of bold of him to say to a publication that I shouldn't write an editorial that's unfavorable. And for that, we're going to punish you by I'll never advertise with you. And so I went on to still investigate, trying to see if I could find out just how is all of this set up. Because with the exception of maybe one, possibly two agencies of the city that advertise, many of them have just passed us by or they have ignored us. And I just thought that if nothing else, our publication should be evaluated the same as other publications. Now, we all do this, many of us who follow each other. I'm always looking at publications and anybody else that's considered a competitor for advertising. And when I see these different advertisements coming out of the city, and yet I've been told personally that you won't get one from a particular agency, it really kind of, as they may say, it rubbed me the wrong way. And so maybe this is a transparency issue, maybe this is something I should take up with Sheena, who I'll be meeting with on Wednesday, as to how do I go about finding out where are these dollars being spent. I'm not concerned about broadcast because I'm not in broadcasting. I'm in the print media. I want to know how many dollars are actually being spent in print media in this, the general area, and who do I go to, who do I see to get this information? Because each time I've tried to get it previously, I get no response at all.
Mr. Leroy, I'm sorry about the experience you've had. It shouldn't be the case, and we should be able to easily put forward any information as a public record as to what we do. We should be able to provide that to you, and I would expect that. As far as what we do, I would ask that those that we do, and I really don't know of anything else other that we might be advertising other than our Pensacola Energy. But if there is something else, one of our other enterprise zones or something that we are advertising, I would ask that we be open and evaluate all the advertising as you say, and hope that's what the case. And I can assure you that what you write about me should not determine what happens necessarily with the city's. I've tried to make it clear to the city employees that their job is to do what's right by the city and the city and the citizens, not the mayor. That's not their allegiance should be. And I can assure you, Rick's here, and I've been a winner and I've been a loser. Hopefully I've been a winner more than I've been a loser. But that hasn't stopped me from advertising with him or working with him. Again, I know you and I we've had ups and downs in our relationship, and I think we're in a good place. But we've had those things, and if I was to allow those things to close off my relationship, then we would never have the open opportunity to develop a better relationship. And so it is my effort and belief that we will always be trying to do something better. And that what you say about me should not determine what's done one way or the other. I just don't know what we're advertising, but you ought to be able to figure out that, and we should be evaluating everything. And I certainly will ask any of those groups that are advertising that we evaluate all. Certainly, I know maybe our airport and our airport and Pensacola Energy would be the two areas I could think of that we would be doing advertising. And I will certainly ask that they evaluate everything.
And one last thing in regards to editorials, I have read some very constructive, scathing editorials by some of the other publications here in this city. And at one time, I said, man, obviously, this publication don't like the map because they were able to go deep, but they had their facts with it. And when I thought about what this person said to me about the editorial that I wrote, and then I see these other publications, including the Daily, who don't spare the rod at all, and yet when I go through their advertising pages, I see advertising being done by the city that we were not privy to getting. But yet they ran some editorial that made the little editorial that the guy was speaking about look like a little piece of candy as far as what I said and what I have read others have said. And it's really down to not trying to be a black and white thing as much as I just want our publication to be given the same consideration all other publications are given. And then once you do that, I mean, I'm thinking on the merits of what we have here to offer will generate at least a response that I can sleep with.
Amen.
But beyond that, I just feel like we never have been given a real serious evaluation. Interesting enough, you spoke of Pensacola Energy. They have been very, very, I'll say good to us as far as advertising and recognizing our publications. But there are other agencies within the city, and as you get really involved in the day-to-day operations, you're going to find that there's a substantial amount of dollars being spent as far as the city of Pensacola and all of its agencies. Park and Recreation is one, just to throw that out there among
Okay.
others. And as I said, I just want to be able to know that our publication is getting the same consideration as others.
And
Not that I get a yes on everything, but just to know that we're being looked upon as,
I apologize for any past experience you had, but that's not going to be the way we do things. So I just want to be clear on that, and we will evaluate, and we'll see what we can do.
thank you.
One last question, is the case surrounding the Baby Park Cross is still pending in the Supreme Court. You said during the campaign you had an alternative solution you'd like to see. Have you looked into pursuing that?
The
at all?
first week I did. The first week I was in office, I called about that, and I did have a discussion with the group that is representing us. And there were some things that came to light that I think changed my position on it. I would have rather, when this started, gone in a different direction. But one of the things I realized at this particular point, if we were to pull out the attorney's fees that we would be on the hook for paying, is fairly substantial from the plaintiff. Now, we are not being charged anything at this particular time by the group that's handling us, but we are still, if we lose, we are still, have the attorney's fees. So I was told if I pulled out, we would have to pay those attorney's fees, where in the likelihood if we stayed in and we prevailed, we would no longer have to pay those. And I was also told that the reason, that went through the decision that on the appellate side, 2 of the 3 judges that heard the case were in favor of what we were doing, would have sided with us if not for a prior Supreme Court ruling. So it is what everyone has been saying, each one of the judges has been saying is we would love for these kind of things to go further all the way to the Supreme Court and they be able to make another ruling, because without them making a new precedent ruling, all lower courts will be stuck with the same prior ruling. So that's why there is an expectation. We are not the only cross case that's going forward. There are 2 others. One of them has already been selected by the Supreme Court. When we had this discussion, this was one of the first things I did in taking office. We had this discussion, and we thought that by that time we would have already heard, and we thought we were going to be that we were actually going to possibly be heard. I haven't heard anything to this particular time, so I was told that it was all likelihood that they could take the other case they've selected and it would apply to the other 2 cross cases. If that happens, we may not get to hear our specific case, but we are one of 3 cross cases that is apparently trying to get to the Supreme Court. One of them has already been accepted, and we're just unsure whether they're just going to rule on that one case or whether they may take all 3 cases and hear them all together. These were the discussions I had with the attorney that was representing us. And again, there is a foundation that's representing us free of charge at this particular time. So we are not paying for our legal costs, but we still are on the hook for the plaintiff's legal costs. So at this time, it appeared to me that while I might have taken different action before we started, where we find ourselves at this particular time, almost at the very end, it would be probably a not the wise decision for representing the citizens to simply go out and have to pay those legal fees. So we're still in the suit and seeing what's going to happen. And again, you never know on these things, but we continue to hear. I continue to certainly believe there's nothing in the Constitution that says there's a freedom from religion. There's a freedom of religion, and I don't believe in any way that cross is an establishment of religion. No more so than I believe the fact that we had a menorah sitting out in front of the city hall. We had a lighting of the menorah. That didn't establish a different religion. It's going to be hard for us to say we're establishing all these religions just because we allow them to do things. We have day of prayer. We, if you look at the Supreme Court, all the religious symbols that are just in the Supreme Court building, if they had to take all those down, it would be substantial. So, I don't think any of these symbols establish a religion. That's why I think there is some merit to continuing to see this case through to the end. Well, if that's it, thank you very much. Y'all have a Merry Christmas, and we'll be at Rick's office next Monday.